All right, so it is 5 o'clock and I'm happy to get us started. I see we have a number of folks who have logged on and we'll get us going right at 5 o'clock. So welcome everybody, good evening. Welcome to the 44th Arvin and Lamont CSC meeting. Before we move on to some welcomes and introductions, just want to take a few moments to set up interpretation and then go through our regular logistics and housekeeping slides. And to get us started, we will go through interpretation, and I'm happy to introduce and welcome Carmen from Lingüística to share these instructions. Welcome, Carmen.
Gracias, buenas tardes. Para todas aquellas personas que quieran escuchar la conferencia en español y están utilizando una computadora, por favor, aprieten el icono que aparece en la barra de control con la forma de un mapa mundi que dice interpretación. Haga clic allí, presiónalo, escoja el idioma que usted prefiera, en este caso es español. Luego escoja silenciar audio original y ya con eso debe estar ya escuchando la interpretación en español en unos minutos. Si usted está escuchando y utilizando una tableta o un teléfono inteligente, toque la pantalla, aparecerán 3 puntos. Puede ver que dice más. Ahí aparecerán el idioma, inglés o español, escoja español. Luego silencia el audio original y luego apriete Done o Listo. Con esto será da paso para que se active la interpretación. Done. Ready.
Great, thank you so much, Carmen. And I was wondering at the same time if possible you could also share the instructions for our English-speaking folks as well.
Of course. For those that are listening the conference and would like to access a language, you can use your tablet or your computer. If you're using your computer, you can see the control bar where you can find the icon with interpretation. It looks like a world map. Then you can see that you can, after clicking on it, you're gonna see languages. You can click Spanish or English. Choose English as your language. Then you can choose silence original audio. With that, the interpretation channel will be activated. If you're using a tablet or a telephone, in this case, you're not going to see an icon. You're just going to see 3 dots after touching the screen. Then you're going to see the word more. Then you choose your language, English or Spanish. In this case, will be English. That way you can listen to anything that is being said in Spanish into English. And then you can option to choose silence audio, original audio. After that, you can then click Done, and you will be done, ready to listen to the interpretation in English.
Thank you so much, Carmen. This is Maddie. And we can take a moment just to make sure that folks are in the correct channel and that they can hear their preferred language. Okay, don't see any questions coming through about folks being in the right language channel, but if anything comes up, please feel free to let us know. And as a friendly reminder, as your facilitators, part of our role in these meetings is to work behind the scenes and to take attendance and offer technical assistance and overall support to ensure that everybody is able to fully engage in tonight's meeting. So if at any point you're having trouble with Zoom or trouble with translations or have any other questions that are coming up, please feel free to send a message to myself and to my colleagues Liz or Amy, and we'll be happy to help. So our next item to cover are our reminders for our naming conventions. We use these naming conventions because they help with attendance, tracking. They also help with the stipend distribution process. And for CSC members, we ask that you put the letters CSC on your Zoom name. And for residents who are a part of the stipend program, we also ask that you add the letter R. If you're not able to change it, you might see one of us change your name at some point throughout the meeting. And again, this is just to help track attendance and support the stipend distributions. For others who are joining us tonight, starting with our agency partners, please do put your agency in your Zoom name. And for members of the public who are joining tonight's meeting, we also ask that you indicate that in your Zoom name by putting the letter P, as this helps us track who to call on during our public comment period. Next, we have our slide on virtual meeting etiquette, where we ask folks to stay muted unless you are speaking. And if you are calling via phone, you can press *6 to mute and unmute. If you have a question or comment, we ask that you raise your hand. And if you're calling on the phone, you can press *9. We also have a reminder for residents in the stipend program, and that is to qualify for the stipend program. We ask that you stay on for at least 75% of tonight's meeting or 2 hours. 90 minutes. Our next slide covers our productive discussion, respectful dialogue guidance. And so we have a review of these group agreements, and I know in the past, my colleagues Liz and Amy would take some time to read each of these items during the meetings, but we do recognize that this has been an ongoing process for folks, and hopefully folks are feeling like this is a familiar and comfortable process. So we won't go through each one by one, but we do ask folks to keep these items in mind while we're facilitating tonight's meeting and having our discussion. Next, we have tonight's agenda where we have space for welcomes and introductions. That will be followed by our action item tracker review. After that, we will open it up to the annual report update, which will take up most of tonight's meeting. That will be followed by standing updates, wrap up, and time for public comment. So with all of that said, I'm happy to do some introductions and officially welcome everybody to tonight's meeting. My name is Maddie, and I'm joined by my fellow facilitators, Amy and Liz. Again, if you're having any trouble throughout tonight's meeting, please feel free to let one of us know in the chat, and we can help troubleshoot anything coming up for you. And at this time, I'd like to welcome our co-leads, Bianca and Cesar, to share some opening remarks.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to give a shout out to everyone here and also the district for the efforts to make the annual report a little more interactive and easier to understand and digest. So preemptive thank you to the Air District for that.
Thank you, Cesar. Bianca, did you also have any opening remarks you'd like to share?
I wanted to echo what my co-lead mentioned, that it's really interesting, the annual report, how this year is being distributed for our community members. It's easier to digest, as Cesar mentioned, but also understanding that these progress are because of community members. These are the works that you guys have been doing throughout the whole entire year. I'm giving credit to all of you, that it takes an effort to make these type of SERP incentives possible, monitoring, and all these outreach that have been happening in the community. So I do appreciate that the Air District is listening to us, giving us the space, but understanding that without the community members, we're not able to do this type of work. So I do want to give that shout out to community members.
Thank you, Bianca. Definitely hearing the shout outs to the community and to the Air District for setting up tonight's meeting. So thank you, everybody. I'd also like to welcome in Stephanie from the Air District to also share some opening remarks.
Thanks, Maddie, and good evening, everyone. My name is Stephanie Ng, and I'm a program manager with the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District. Appreciate Bianca and Cesar for that introduction, because I definitely am so grateful to be here tonight with you all to share this exciting update. Like both mentioned, we will be reviewing the annual report, and we hope that this year it does look different. And we truly want the report to be, like Bianca was saying, a real reflection of the work that you all did in the past year and a real celebration of it. So I'm excited to review it and looking forward to hearing about any feedback that you all have. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. This is Maddie. At this time, I'm happy to transition us to our next agenda item, which is the action item review. And as we all know, to help facilitate a transparent process and to hold teams accountable, the Air District is continuously and systematically updating the action item tracker to ensure that the community's requests are being documented and that everyone stays informed on the progress toward implementing your suggestions. As Eric provides these updates, please feel free to ask for clarification, and anything that can't be answered tonight will be noted and will be brought back for a future meeting. So with all of that said, I'm happy to pass it over to you, Eric.
Thank you so much, Maddie. Can the folks on the call see my screen? Perfect. Thank you so much. And again, this is Eric, your community liaison for the Arvin and Lamont community. I'll be reviewing our action items for today. And as many of you know, we do have 4 sections: our in progress, complete, and ongoing, and comment noted will be in our first 3 sections for today. So let's go ahead and start. So our first action item is for the Air District and the Agricultural Commissioner, CARB, and the CSC. So all of us combined. So the Air District will share new pesticide monitoring findings with the CSC and the Agricultural Commissioner. So we just wanted to let folks know and have exciting news that CARB successfully completed the 13-week pesticide monitoring campaign and is currently compiling the findings. So once these findings are available, we'll go ahead and share that with everybody. Okay, go back to the top. Move down to our completed section. So this completed action item is for the Air District and CARB. So the Air District and CARB to follow up with the CSC member regarding concerns about diesel gas and pollutants that are emitted. So we're happy to announce that the district did work with CARB, and we did share the information to the concerned CSC member regarding some of the regulations for diesel trucks and related diesel pollutants. Next. So our next item is for the Air District, and the Air District to work again with the CSC member or with the CSC members to schedule a vegetative barrier subcommittee meeting and to share the new locations that folks had in mind. So we are excited because next week we're going to have a vegetative barrier subcommittee meeting on October 29th. So for more information on that meeting, please go ahead and follow this link. I'll drop it in the chat after. So moving on to our last section, our ongoing section. So this is for everybody as well. We want to let folks know that we're going to continue this great collaboration with the Ag Commissioner, with the CSC, and just all of our folks to continue to collaborate with the CSC, CARB, and the Agricultural Commissioner's Office regarding pesticide monitoring. Whenever it's available, we'll go ahead and share that with the community. Our next item is for the Air District. So I know there was a community member that wanted some follow-up with air monitoring status, and we did follow up with that community member. And we just wanted to, again, let folks know if you see any air quality concerns, please report it to the Air District as soon as possible. There's a link here to report it online or to give us a phone call. Okay. And moving on to our last one. And again, just echoing, the great partnership that we have with Bianca and some of our co-leads. We'll continue to share some of these contacts that we have with schools and some of the great work. And I guess as a side note, we are going to attend the Lamont Weed Patch Festival next week on the 30th. You all should have received an email. We'll have a booth out there, so we're very excited for that. And that is our last action item. I'll go ahead and pass it back to Maddie to see if we have any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric. This is Maddie. So yes, as Eric mentioned, now's the time. If anybody has any questions or any need for clarification, happy to open it up for any questions. So I'm not seeing any hands coming up or any questions in the chat, but I'll just give it another moment to see if any questions are coming up for folks. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. And with that, I am happy to pass it off to my colleague Liz for the next agenda item.
Hi, everyone. This is Liz. Thank you, Maddie, for that transition. And I'm happy to open up our main agenda item for tonight. As was mentioned a few times, you all will be hearing the update on the annual report. I just want to remind folks that this is still relatively new for the Arvin Lamont CSC. This is the second time that you all have been able to engage with this annual report. So the Air District will be, well, they did send out some hard copies to you all in the mail. And as you've heard, in addition to the typical way of presenting this report, they're going to be trying something new, and that is called a story map. And so there's this more interactive and engaging way for you all to digest the information that is in the report, because it can be pretty dense. So typically, this is a presentation of the report, and so it will be slightly different, but you all are still invited to read the entire report on your own time, and there will be time for you to give any feedback that you have to the Air District. As Stephanie will mention, as she's opening this item up for you all, the Air District is really looking for feedback from you all on whether what is shared in the report is really reflective of how you all have been experiencing the work from AB 617 and what you've been seeing in your community. So just keep that in mind as you are hearing everything. And as always, please feel free to ask any questions, either by raising your hand or putting them in the chat. And so I'm excited to pass it to Stephanie to get us started.
Thank you, Liz. This is Stephanie. And I can't believe that we've gotten to this time of the year. I remember this time last year, and it feels like it was just yesterday. But kind of as we approach the end of the year, we get to this routine time where it's I think, a really great opportunity for us to kind of check in on kind of what we've accomplished as a whole committee this past year. Just putting together this report, there are already so many amazing highlights that I'm excited to share with you. But like Liz, and then also you heard from Cesar and Bianca as well, we are trying out a new format this year that we're really excited about. Liz mentioned it's called a story map. And it's a really powerful tool that allows us to tell a story using things like maps and different media, which you'll see when I share my screen. But this is really our kind of the goal of this meeting and this annual report is to really kind of tell the story of kind of what we've done in the past year, like I mentioned. And then also what we'd love to hear from you is whether or not this feels like an accurate reflection of kind of the successes, the things that you all want to highlight from the progress on AB 617 implementation in Arvin Lamont. And so just a few kind of also just updates to you all about the annual report. You know, this is something that is required by CARB that we will plan to bring to our board at the end of the year. But we are so excited to really dig into and celebrate kind of all the progress that we've made in this past year. So I am going to share my screen. We have two separate versions. We'll have an English and we'll have a Spanish. I'm actually going to share my screen on the Spanish version. And I just want to ease you all that maybe aren't so fond of like technology. If websites aren't really your thing, maps maybe aren't your thing, and it gets a little disorienting. I just want to just reassure you that for those that typically get printed materials from you all, This story map allows us to print out a copy of it, and then we'll mail you a physical copy so that you can take a look at it in that way. So there'll be both versions that are available to you. And again, this is just a draft, so we definitely, at the end of the presentation, I'll share some things that that we are looking kind of in the next few weeks to add. But of course, we definitely want to hear from you all of things that you want to see different, things that you want to add to it. With that, I'm going to share my screen. And for those that like to follow along, on their own laptop or computer, Eric did just drop the links into the chat. Can everyone see my screen? Perfect. So again, this is our 2024 annual report. Something that's a little bit different about this year is typically for all of our annual reports, we have a separate annual report for each of the communities that we have. We have 4 communities in the Valley that are going through the AB 617 process, and typically we have 4 separate reports. Something that we are doing this year is we have put together all of our annual reports into one to kind of celebrate all of the work that's being done in the Valley through AB 617. But as you'll see, it'll kind of separate different communities. And just for the ease of looking at it tonight, we did pull out a separate Arvin Lamont section so that we can look at that section together. But you will see kind of the beginning part, which is an overarching overview of AB 617 in the Valley. So as you can see this part, there's gonna be a lot of words on the screen, and like Liz mentioned, I'm really not gonna read to you. I don't think anybody wants that today. But I'm gonna kind of talk high level about the different sections, and then scroll through I think is gonna be the more exciting part, which is some maps and some pictures. But then definitely encourage you to kind of take a look at the text a little more closely when you kind of have your own time. But this first part highlights overall kind of AB 617 implementation in the Valley. It talks about the 4 communities. It talks about what AB 617 is and what's required by the program, which includes monitoring, developing emission reduction programs, working with the community steering committee as well. And then we have a little timeline of kind of the work in the Valley done on AB 617, starting with, I think some of you are familiar, our year 1 communities. It kind of highlights and starts with in 2018, 2 of our year 1 communities were selected, which were South Central Fresno and Shafter. I'll kind of highlight some other dates that might be interesting to folks, which is in 2021, Arvin Lamont was selected for this process. In 2022, Arvin Lamont, the SERP was approved that you all put together, and we brought forth to CARB, and that it was approved by CARB in 2022. And then kind of in the timeline of where we are is right now, we are working with all 4 community steering committees, including Arvin Lamont, to implement all of the SERP measures that we work together to put together in the SERP, as well as work on our community air monitoring program. And then in this map below, you can kind of see all the communities that we have. Oops. Here we go. And this kind of talks about our 4 communities. All the way in the north, we have Stockton, Fresno, Shafter, and then here's Arvin Lamont. The next section that we have, which is, I think, obviously a really critical part of the work that we do, highlights the work that we did kind of to put together the Community Emissions Reduction Program, or SERP, and then our Community Air Monitoring Plan, or CAMP. And so it talks about the process of course, working with this community steering committee to put together strategies to tackle air pollution in the community. It kind of high level talks about through all of the measures that you all supported in the SERP, what kind of reductions we'd look to get. So, the pollution we're looking to take out of the air to help clean air in the Arvin Lamont community. And then it also kind of talks about the timeline of this. So something important to highlight is you might be thinking in your head when we go through these items that we're going to highlight is, oh, I'm actually thinking of something that happened, a while back. And so this annual report actually looks to feature work from this past year, and the year that we're looking at is between September of 2023 to August of this year. And so with that, I'm going to continue to scroll down. And in this next section, it's going to feature kind of 5 different really cool highlights of work that the Community Steering Committee has done in this past year. The first thing that it'll highlight, and this is kind of the fun feature of story maps, is there's kind of some, map features. This is Bear Mountain Recreation Center, and then these to the right, it allows you to kind of have a bunch of pictures. So I'll scroll through those just as a reminder to folks of kind of the event that took place. But this item highlights all of the work that you all helped support us in putting together the lawnmower exchange event that was hosted in June at the Bear Mountain Recreation Center. So in that event, I know you all remember, but nearly 200 residents in the Arvin-Lamont boundary were able to trade in their old lawnmower for a new electric mower. And so here are some of the pictures that kind of highlight the day. That's the new electric mower. I think this is a very interesting picture. You can see all of the old mowers, the older polluting mowers that are kind of here to be dismantled so they can't be used anymore in the community, and that folks are able to use their new electric mowers. And then as you scroll down, it's kind of fun. It zooms throughout the map. And then the next highlight that we wanted to share, I mean, it's something that we look forward to. It's one of our highlights for the whole entire year, is the in-person meeting that we have at the end of the year. And as you all remember, this was such an important opportunity for us to all work together in person to kind of make progress on our clean air strategies in the SERP. And as you all remember, there were a lot of folks in the room. There were probably about more than 50 of us between agencies, the Community Steering Committee, community members that you all brought to the meeting. And we worked together at that meeting to kind of advance 2 measures that are still, a high priority to the committee, which is passenger vehicle replace. And then, oh, is there a question? I think someone just unmuted. So I'll continue on. But this was an in-person meeting. We focused on 2 high priority measures, which was the passenger vehicle replace program and then vegetative barriers. We also had a really fun open house in which you all invited folks from outside of our AB 617 program that live in the AB 617 boundary that could come learn about some of our grant programs. We had CARB there, we had DPR there, and then we had all of our usual things that we do in in-person meetings, which included, of course, the simultaneous translation to make sure the meeting was accessible. And then we also, huge thanks to Eric, every year this is something that he helps us put together, is we had Toys for Tots come out as well. And so these were pictures from that day: the vegetative barrier station, the passenger vehicle replace station, and then the air monitoring van, which was there for you all to kind of take a look at, ask questions to our air monitoring team to understand kind of the work that they're doing throughout the community to understand local pollution. The third thing that we wanted to highlight, that definitely the committee has kind of put so much work and provided so much feedback on, is our passenger vehicle replace program. We're so excited that in June we were able to open the program. It's definitely, of course, a highly prioritized program that replaces older polluting vehicles with newer hybrid and electric vehicles. And as part of this program, a super important component of that is that we partner with Valley Clean Air Now to host passenger vehicle replace workshops in the evening. So they provide bilingual assistance. They hold these at local restaurants so that in other community kind of hubs, so they can make sure that they provide dinner and it's a comfortable space for people to be able to kind of sit there, fill out the application, get questions answered. And these definitely are a way to kind of reduce the barrier to participating in the program. And so these are just some of the pictures from those events. And for these events, I'll share an update during our standing updates of the next one, but they will typically rotate kind of every other month between a location in Arvin and then a location in Lamont. And moving on to the fourth thing that we highlighted, which was an outreach campaign that happens around back to school time when everyone, when kids are headed back to school. In September, we took part in a back to school outreach campaign at various schools throughout the boundary. And through that campaign, we were able to connect with parents, students, different school personnel about all of our air quality resources, available programs, especially the ones that we have open through AB 617 for residents to take advantage of. It takes place during our drop-offs. So when parents are dropping their kids off, and then in the afternoon during pickups. And during this time, we were able to connect with over 300 parents during this year's back to school outreach campaign. We've done it for a couple years now, and this year we are able to visit a couple of schools, which you can see listed here, which included Myrtle Avenue Elementary, Lamont Elementary, Sierra Vista Elementary, and Bear Mountain Elementary. While we're in the community, we definitely want to take advantage of the time that we're there and, make the best use of that time. So we also, when we're in the community, visit local libraries and also different resource centers to drop off the same information so that folks are aware of our programs and know how to reach out to us. So I'll share some photos from this back to school outreach campaign. So you can see here, cars are lined up, so it's a good opportunity for us to be able to connect with parents. Anna here is holding kind of an informational packet that we gave out to all the parents that has a bunch of information about all of our different programs. We also, as part of this, attended different events that the school was hosting, so different like coffee hours and parent hours as well. And shout out to our team, someone familiar. Eric was down in the community, and here he is in front of one of the schools. Perfect. And the fifth thing that we wanted to highlight from kind of the work that's been done in this past year is definitely a crucial one. And Bianca had mentioned monitoring, which of course something we want to highlight is the community-driven and community-focused effort to develop pesticide monitoring in the Arvin Lamont community. As a reminder to everyone, I know that there are a lot of folks in this call that take part in the pesticide subcommittee, but in that subcommittee, we work to develop kind of a plan to do monitoring in the community. It started at the very, very start with kind of DPR sharing information about kind of all the pesticide use in the community, and kind of what would make sense seasonally and kind of time-wise based on their application to monitor. We've gotten kind of, since the start of kind of this process, definitely a bunch of feedback from the committee about high priority areas in which you all have concerns about pesticides, or else that you all suggested to do pesticide monitoring. And kind of throughout that, CARB was able to kind of prioritize, based on those prioritized locations, identify sites that they were able to host monitors. And so I know Eric shared an update at the beginning of the meeting as well, but you can see here down at the end, a successful 13-week monitoring campaign was completed. CARB did let us know in that subcommittee, and this is what they're undergoing, but that it would take them a little bit of time to kind of analyze the samples and then compile the data. So that's currently what they're working on. And so we'll plan to share with the whole, work with CARB once it's available to share that information out with you all. These were the 3 sites in this picture here. These were the 3 sites that the monitoring took place. And then here's just a fun little picture of one of the samplers at sunset. And then kind of wrapping us up, the last thing that I will definitely highlight, and this is something that we've been highlighting in a lot of our recent meetings, thanks to kind of feedback from the co-leads about reminding us about this tool, is our SERP tracker. So our SERP tracker is updated monthly, and it's definitely, we hope, a robust kind of way for you, and then high level way for you all to take a look at kind of the progress that's made on all of our SERP measures, including incentive measures, including outreach measures, including enforcement measures. And we definitely understand kind of feedback from the committee that it's important to understand where we are with these measures. And so we hope that, you all are taking a look at it, and we'll actually review it at the end of the meeting as well. But this annual report will link you to the latest tracker for you to take a look at. And that is actually the end of the annual report. This year, we hope to make it really like short and sweet and really hit the high level points of what we think are the really great highlights from this past year. A couple things that I will share that we still want to include, because like I mentioned, this is just a draft. A couple things we want to include is to include a graphic of the emissions progress that we've made through all the CERT measures. So that's definitely something that we also want to include in this. And then at the end of the report, we also want to highlight some of the work that we've done with the Arvin Lamont community and kind of the greater community engagement work we do throughout the whole San Joaquin Valley. And some of those highlights include Community Clean Air Day, which I know a lot of you were able to attend. So we definitely want to highlight that work as well. With that, this is kind of a high-level overview. Like I said, I know I didn't read through all the text, but I definitely want to encourage you all to kind of take a look at it in your own time. But for now, I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen and see if there's any feedback from community members or if there's any section that you all want me to kind of focus in on to take a look at. Go ahead, Gustavo.
Yeah, you mentioned that I think you are going to add the graphic with the total pollution reduction that we achieved. Do you have an idea how much that will be? Because that was my question, but you mentioned that you will include it. Do you have an idea that you can share for now? You know, how many tons of pollution reductions we achieved by implementing, you know, with the progress made up to date?
This is Stephanie. Thanks so much, Gustavo, for that question. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but the CERT tracker that I mentioned actually tracks exactly that progress. So I'm happy to share it later in the meeting when I go through it, kind of share that. And I think it could be as simple of an exercise of just kind of running through the columns and adding it up. So I don't have that off the top of my head, but the CERT tracker is definitely the best place. It's updated literally every single month. So that's kind of the most recent progress from all of the, the progress that we've made on the CERP. But I can definitely take a look at that, and at the next meeting, or kind of, I think throughout as we're developing this draft, we can share that graphic out with you all so you can take a look at that.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Gustavo.
This is Liz. Thank you so much, Steph, for the really in-depth and informative presentation. I am looking through the chat and we had just one question so far that we could probably answer in the update, but I'll just ask it now. When are we going to have another lawnmower exchange in Arvin?
This is Stephanie. Thanks for that question, Christine. Given that we just had the lawnmower exchange in Lamont, we do kind of have a schedule of events planned, and we have other communities that we're planning on kind of having this event in their community. So we'll circle back around to Arvin, hopefully at the beginning of next year. And of course, you all will be, once we have a date, you all will be the first to know about that.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And this is Liz again. I know that was a lot of information that was just presented, and it can take a little while to digest and process your thoughts. So I don't want to rush anybody, but just want to really invite folks to share, some reflections, how that's landing, and if that resonates with your experience, and if anything is missing that you might want to see added into the report. And so I see a hand from Mario. Go ahead. Mario, you unmuted and then muted yourself again. There you go.
Could you hear me now? It's still, it's
Yes.
because the red line is still on the speaker, that's why. Anyways, yeah, I just want to know how everything's going for the cement sidewalks here in Lamont. They were supposed to start when on certain streets. And two, I want to know how everything turned out for Arvin, Comanche.
This is Stephanie. Thanks so much, Mario, for that question. And it sounds like, Mario, you're asking about kind of a couple of meetings ago, we did discuss some paving projects that with the city of Arvin. Is that what you're asking about?
Yeah, that and two, right here in Lamont, they were supposed to put sidewalks on certain streets. I just want to know if they already started that or what happened after with the sidewalks.
Perfect. This is Stephanie. I can speak to the projects that we were working on through AB 617, but I do know that there's other work kind of through the city and county to do paving projects as well. So if there's anyone from either of those agencies that, has more information, feel free to speak up. But on the AB 617 side of things, we did a couple meetings ago review a few paving projects, which is really awesome. We appreciate the kind of the work and the partnership with Christine at the city of Arvin. And we have some kind of as a follow-up to that conversation, we do also have been working with the city of Arvin and then also with the co-leads because we do have some additional emission reduction information about those projects that we do want to share with you all. So our thought is, and this is a little bit of a spoiler because I was going to share this at the end of the meeting, but it's probably no surprise to everyone that we want to do an in-person meeting with you all at the beginning of December to kind of wrap up the year. And at that meeting, we wanted to kind of provide that information to you all about the paving projects at that December meeting.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I blew it.
No, it's okay, Mario. It's a really great question. I'm so excited for it. Paving projects do kind of take a minute. So I don't think it'll be anything that kind of happens before the end of this year. So we do want to have that meeting in December to kind of continue discussing or provide the updates about the emission reductions kind of piece of the projects. At what we hope is going to be a really fun and interactive in-person meeting in December.
Yeah, and two, I just want to know how did everything turned out for Comanche to put sidewalks in Comanche? After all, I mean, they had to try to figure out how to budget it, or are you guys still working on that?
This is Stephanie. Great question. Mario is asking about the Comanche project. And we definitely understand that there is some interest from the community. So we definitely do still want to work on that project. The information that I mentioned is also for the Comanche project that we do have some emission reduction estimates that we want to share with you all regarding the project. So that's something that we want to do with you all in December again.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't want to, mess up the surprise. But I just wanted to ask because I was a little concerned about, what's going on that part. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Mario. We totally understand that. And we want to promise everyone that we are diligently working on those projects as well, because we know it's a priority to you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both. And just, I'm hearing that our interpreter in the Spanish channel is talking really fast, trying to keep up. So just a reminder for folks to try when you speak to speak a little more slowly. Thank you all. And so we can go to the next hand from Gustavo.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to share some information about the sidewalks. Thank you, Mario, for asking. In Comité Progreso de Lamont, for Better Arvin, CRP, we normally are engaged in the Kern County budget approval process. So with that, we have regular meetings with the county and the public works. So few projects that will be happening, Mario, in Lamont is what is called the Goods Edition. We may see some activities in building that sidewalks in that neighborhood. The other one is in Tehachapi. This is another street that is going to happen. And I think it may happen, another one may happen. And those are from funding that the county got from federal funding. And I think what we were told by the county is that those projects that the county got funding from federal funding, they need to put that construction at front because they have some due dates to use the money or they will lose it. So we will see more activities happening in the Tehachapi area. In terms of the sidewalks projects that are that we already approved from 617 funding. For that one, what the county said is because they have a lot of the good news that they have a lot of funding for these projects, but they cannot build all the projects, like as soon as we wish. So what they told us is for the funding from 617, since it's not that funding can wait a little bit more than the other funding. So we may not see the actual construction of those projects by Carnation and Panama Road, that area, maybe at least a year from now, because I think the county is focusing in other areas, but I think we are okay. We just need to be patient with the county. That's the information I wanted to share, that just to give an update on this one for us to be patient.
And this is Stephanie. Sorry, Mario, I see your hand up, but I actually just wanted to quickly add to Gustavo's comment about the county. And I apologize. I wasn't sure if you were talking about a project outside of 617, but to Gustavo's point, we do have about $6 million of projects with Kern County through 617. And to Gustavo's point, I know that the county has also shared, like he said, they have the county has a lot of projects and a lot of funding they're trying to tackle. But just as an update to you all, we are under contract, or we have sent out a contract to the county to do this work, which is a really important piece. I know it sounds a little bit silly, but contracting is really important for us to make sure that we have everything in line for us to be able to fund the work and be able to do it with them. And so that contract has been shared with Kern County so that we can be able to move forward with the Kern County projects. So that's also an update I'll share for the 617 Kern projects with the county.
Yeah, go ahead, Mario.
Oh, could you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, that's good news. Two days ago, I got a good news too for that family rancher to get his equipment. Looks like everything's falling in place and looking good. And I want to say I appreciate that they did a really good job trying to figure out how to help out this family-owned rancher to get equipment. I appreciate that. And two, I was say too, I don't know if 617 is to help out Fuller Acres to put sidewalks on over there, or was it a county? Because I went in a certain meeting and right now, I'll be honest with you, I don't remember if the county said there was a help out or 617. I'm sorry. It's because I go to too many meetings. I just want to ask if 617 is to help out Fuller Acres for sidewalks. I mean, maybe the county is, I don't know.
This is Stephanie. Mario, just as a reminder, the two projects that we are working with Kern County are on Panama Road and then Mountain View Road. And so those are the two projects that we worked with you all as a committee to kind of prioritize. And we heard from the committee that that was something that you all were interested in moving forward with.
Mhm.
And so those are the projects that I mentioned that we just sent over contracts to Kern County so we can move forward with the work.
Mhm. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was just trying to touch base on certain projects that what I heard and then how I had some good news too, and I just want to know if following up on Fuller Acres. That's all. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Mario. And I totally hear you that paving, I think lots of folks on this call are probably interested in how the paving projects are doing. So again, we'll do a big update at that at the December meeting about kind of where we are with both the projects for the city and the county.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And that is what we are hoping to hear tonight. And we do have, I see 10 or 20 more minutes. If folks do have more feedback, if you've had some time to think a little bit more about what has happened over the past year, any highlights that you have that you didn't see presented in the report that you really want to be sure that they include, or anything that you've heard tonight that you still have questions about, or anything that was unclear, we would love to hear anything that's coming up for you. So I'll pause for another moment or so and see if anyone wants to raise their hand or put any comment in the chat about the annual report. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. So I think, Steph, unless there was something you wanted to add, I think we can close out this item.
Thanks, Liz. This is Stephanie. I did just want to maybe wrap up by kind of discussing next steps with this annual report. This is a draft, and we definitely understand that you're just seeing this for the first time. So we want to give you all time to be able to process and look kind of and review on your own time. And so we are going to email this information out to you all. And then also we're going to print and mail copies to those that typically have requested, that get our packets. Those are the people that have requested paper materials from us. And so we'll send these out tomorrow to everyone. And we are just looking to receive feedback by November 18th, which will include that date in an email to you all, which gives you kind of a few weeks. It's just under a month. And we just want to make sure that we get feedback in time, so that allows us to incorporate it into the final version, so that we can be prepared kind of to submit this to CARB. And then also it's a really fun opportunity for us to kind of highlight this progress in an item to our governing board. If you want this, if you don't normally get printed things from us, but you're like, you looked at that and that's something that you really want as a paper copy, definitely feel free to reach out to myself or to Eric, and we're happy to send it off tomorrow to you. Thanks, everyone. Looking forward to hearing any feedback that you have.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. This is Liz again. And we'll add that to our action items tracker, inviting folks to share any feedback by that November 18th date. And so at this time, I am happy to transition us to our next agenda item, and that is our usual standing updates. So as most of you, I think, know, we do take the time at every meeting to listen and hear directly from agencies and community partners that are working on initiatives that impact the Arvin Lamont AB 617 community. And so as we go through these updates, there will be pause points after each agency where we'll invite you all to share any questions or comments. And we'll have another opportunity after all agencies have presented to see if there are any community members who have relevant updates to share with the group as well. So we will go in the order that the agencies appear on the agenda, and that is starting with the Valley Air District for our new SERP tracker review, and passing it to you, Steph.
Thank you so much, Liz. This is Stephanie again. Like I mentioned during that annual report item, a routine thing that we want to get into the habit of that we've done over the last few meetings is based on feedback from our co-leads. I think it's, they were sharing that it's really important for us to, in these meetings, highlight kind of the progress that's been made kind of since the last meeting. So I'm going to share my screen to show our SERP tracker. This is something that we update, like I mentioned, every month, and it's something that those of you that get our mailed packets, it's something that you're probably really familiar with. And I know we discussed this in the last meeting, but kind of a newer update that we have to the SERP tracker is that you will see green highlights for areas in which were updated just last month. So if there was a change in any of the numbers or any of the kind of status since last month, you'll see it updated in green. So you can kind of look at this, you know, it is a little bit, we hope it's high level, but we also understand it is a little bit of a long document. So we definitely want you to be able to take a look at this and just kind of tell, okay, what's new in this tracker since last month? So some of the things that I will highlight is we are continuing to make progress. Mario mentioned earlier, but our ag equipment replacement program, we are continuing to make really great progress on that program. We're just over 50% through the progress kind of for the funding that we have allocated. We've spent just around $2.4 million to be able to trade out a lot of old equipment in the community and replace with newer units, 29 units in the community. And to Gustavo's question earlier about kind of emissions progress, as you scroll over to the right, you can see all of the emissions related to NOx, PM 2.5, and VOCs. They're kind of our targets, what we think that we could accomplish, kind of based on how many units we think we can replace and kind of what's been done to date. There's also a column that kind of highlights and really summarizes the progress in those emissions here at the end. So again, making really great progress on this measure that's related to replacing agricultural equipment. Also, this is a really great update since our last meeting. This number has almost since doubled in our Alternatives to Agricultural Burning program. This is something that my team updates, and I was a little bit shocked because I was like, is this right? It's almost doubled. But it was totally correct in that we just received over this past month a lot of applications to our Alternatives to Ag Burn program. This is also another important program that gets us a lot of emission reductions, which you can see kind of in these later columns. We also have some progress on our residential lawn and garden program. Like I mentioned earlier to Christine's question, is, you know, we do want to hold another event in the community at the beginning of next year, which we know is an amazing opportunity to get a lot of participants all at once. But even when that event isn't happening, folks can still participate in the program, and we can see kind of from this update that folks are still participating, and we're seeing kind of that number in the funding being spent in the community, which is really awesome. Another program that we have been continuing to get progress on is our passenger vehicle replacement program. We've spent about $1.78 million, and we have currently 89 applications kind of to participate in the program, just 89 different households throughout the Arvin Lamont boundary, which is really great. The Valley Can is continuing to host workshops, and they will continue to host a monthly workshop every single month until the funding is exhausted. So they still continue every single workshop they do. They still continue to get families coming in to ask questions, to apply to the program. And so we're really excited about the progress that we're seeing kind of in this program. This is something we did talk about in the last meeting, so it's not brand new, but I did also want to bring attention to this measure here, which is our vegetative barriers program. We did mention it last month, but the vegetative barriers request for proposal. So this is kind of the proposal that goes out to find an organization to be able to do this, you know, plant the vegetative barriers to do the work in the community. That proposal is currently open. And we have a vegetative barrier subcommittee, like Eric mentioned, next Tuesday. So that's also something I'll highlight here. And so I believe those are all the updates that we have since the last month. I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen and happy to take any questions from you all.
Yeah, we have a couple questions, and we can start with Gustavo, Senior.
Yeah, thank you. I think today I'm about reporting and What I was thinking, since Jennifer was sharing, I think it will be great if we have in one of our next meetings, maybe someone, a grower that got one of the harvesters or a tractor, maybe joining the meeting and sharing their experience, the change that is making for them. I think just for us to kind of, we can hear or see the impacts that we are creating through these projects. And I was thinking also maybe for someone from one resident that got the electric lawnmower, because on my birthday I got a electric lawnmower as my present, and I was resistant to change my old lawnmower. But I've been having a great experience. I didn't want to do that before because I was assuming that, the electric lawnmowers are weak and will not do the work, which actually is, I've been having a great experience. So maybe asking someone, so those recipients of the benefits, I think it will be good for all of us, to listen directly from people that we are impacting. I think that will be a great incentive for us to hear, what we're causing, the positive things.
This is Stephanie. Thank you so much, Gustavo, for that suggestion. I love that idea. That does actually remind me though, we do that as you're saying that, that's exactly what we also kind of have the same thought about, that it's really important for people to hear about other people successfully going through the program, to even like to your example, want to take advantage of it themselves. So I actually maybe, Heather, do you mind kind of letting folks know? We have this series of videos that we put together. They're called our Believe It commercials. And Heather, do you mind just chatting about those a little bit?
Of course. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. We are very proud of our Believe It series. And so exactly what that suggestion entailed is kind of what we're doing in that series. We take grantees, people that have participated in our key programs, and we've made commercials out of them. We go to their space, their home, their farm, depends on the commercial. And we talk to them about their experience going through, in many cases, there was we've done English and Spanish for a lawnmower. We've done English and Spanish for a fireplace changeout. And we've also done and won an award for the tractor replacement program. Ivan Hurd actually was in the video, and we showcased a local farmer, and we won the award for the very reason of the strategy we took. They absolutely recognized and honored us for involving the community and sort of putting forward the stories of the work we were doing. That I can drop a link into the chat so that you can watch that video.
Thanks, Heather. So that's something that already is, I think we're on the same wavelength about, but I think Gustavo, to your point, we can work with our grants team and maybe explore some options about some folks that have taken advantage like locally in Arvin, Lamont. And maybe we find someone, to speak here and maybe even do a new kind of like Believe It video with for 617. I like that idea.
Yeah, that would be great. I think it will help us, even promote everything that we are doing.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, really great suggestion. Thank you for that. And we can go to Gus Jr. next.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Good evening. My question is on the SERP tracker that was being showed right now. And specifically around like the NOx and other contaminants that have been like suggested or projected that have been reduced due to the strategies that have been applied already. And my question was just like on the calculation or like more or less like for us residents and community members, that are following the SERP trackers in more than one community. How can we like wrap our heads around like how much emissions are being reduced per, you know, investments in these communities via the strategies? And then my other question is like, based on those numbers that we're looking at on NOx and other PM 2.5, are those simply projections based on like, you know, an old tractor emits this and a new tractor emits this, and then that's plugged into the formula? Or is it like actual data driven? Not that modeling is not data driven, but like actual data captured and analyzed um, emission reductions. So that's my question.
This is Stephanie. Thanks so much for that question. I'll get us started, and then Carrie, if you have anything else to add, please feel free. But Gustavo's question was about kind of the projected, and I think probably also the achieved reductions that are in the tracker and kind of where those numbers do come from. And so some of these programs, they definitely do have kind of historical calculations based on, I think, just like many years of experience of kind of running and understanding the program. I think also some of these calculations are also based on like historically, we have now as a, you know, an agency that's run grant programs for a long time. We have an understanding of kind of historically based on kind of the replacement of a unit, kind of the time, the lifetime that it's spent, the miles it's used, the hours it's used. An understanding of kind of if we were to replace that, what emissions would be kind of replaced through that. But I do, Gustavo, kind of love your question also about kind of like wrapping your head around it. I do think maybe in something that we can, an idea that I'm having is in the annual report, as we're reporting the emissions reductions, we have a couple of statistics that kind of compare like what a replacement is like. For example, in the annual report, there is one statistic that talks about how one gas lawnmower kind of produces the equivalent emissions of 12 late model cars. So I think I'm curious if maybe that kind of language where it's a comparison to something that people really understand versus like 100 NOx tons maybe means a little more to folks. So I do think maybe we can kind of strive that in the emissions reporting in the annual report, that we kind of do some more of these like comparisons that are a little bit more casual, like easier to understand versus us just reporting, oh, we reduced 100 like NOx ton from this or whatever number it may be from, you know, from this replacement of this equipment.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm thinking of like, you know, Arvin and Lamont are like, you know, are midway kind of really kind of doubling down on the strategies that seem to be working. Other communities are kind of sunsetting, if you will, when it comes to the time spectrum of, you know, getting the money out there and executing all the strategies for emission reduction. And as we think of like next year and beyond, the reauthorization of cap and trade, and last time it was reauthorized cap and trade, or AB 617 rather, was a trailer bill that accompanied that. And so I'm trying to think like further into the future, how we justify like advocating for AB 617 and if it's worked. Obviously, like it's worked in many different aspects, community engagement being one of them. But as far as like actual like reduction of real tangible emissions, like, you know, yeah. So I'm just trying to see like how, from a technical perspective, we're able to analyze it, look at it, and be like, okay, you know, it's totally justifiable that, you know, X amount of dollars was invested in this community because it reduced, you know, an equivalent to 100 tractors, right? So yeah, I'm just trying to understand it from an advocate perspective, so I could wrap my head around this and have whatever technical answers that, you know, residents come to us. Specifically, like I'm thinking of like ALSERP communities, so communities that are not official. They're like looking at you guys and us, official 617 communities, to see how we're doing it and if it's working.
Yeah, thanks, Gustavo. I love that question because from our air district perspective, that's such an important aspect of this program is you'll hear us kind of talk about it, I think, so much that we want to make sure that for all of these measures that, you know, in the SERP, in the totality of kind of all the work that we're funding, that they are going truly towards emissions reductions, which is why I think you all might remember kind of in the budgeting exercise you all did, there was a little gauge that kind of talked about, as you kind of change the funding, the amount of units for a certain measure, like, oh, I want to replace more vehicles versus, doing a road paving project or whatever the example is, that we wanted to make sure that we got a good amount of emissions reductions for these projects. And so that's definitely something that's on our mind too, is we want to be able to talk up the program and the work that you all are doing to kind of, definitely these projects that we have in our SERP, trading out a tractor, trading out a vehicle, these are resulting in tangible emission reductions that are happening in the community. But we definitely want to make sure that we're continuing work on this SERP so that we can go back and say to anyone that is interested in the program that AB 617 is accomplishing its mission to reduce emissions to help clean air. So that's definitely something on our mind too, Gustavo.
Yeah, really great questions. Thank you so much. And we have a couple hands up, so we can go next to Mario.
Could you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. There's still that red line on that thing on the speaker. Anyway, just want to find out if we'll have a meeting for those diesel trucks, that liquid, what they use for the smog and all that to make it not to give smog. Because I noticed that they've been having problems with that liquid because it creates like a white substance on inside the converter and the muffler, and it plugs up everything, and it's creating more problems than fixing up the problem. I don't know if we could get some more information about that, because more trucks is breaking down for that liquid and not really helping out for our environment. And I just wonder if somebody who got a little bit more knowledge about it to educate us on that. Because to me, it's very interested. I'm very interested on that because I noticed that they've been having a lot of problems. Because I know a lot of people who have diesel trucks and things like that, and I opened up one of those mufflers, and let me tell you, it had a big old ball, and I don't know if it's more toxic or what's going on with that.
Hi, Mario. This is Michelle Byers with CARB. I sent you an email this afternoon. I'm hoping that it's addressing that question. That's the same question you were asking last meeting, I think. Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Although I heard you just now say something about white residue, so I'm not quite sure what that is.
Yeah, because what it does, when you put the liquid, it's supposed to help out for the environment, but the thing is, they're clogging up the muffler, the converter. It's plugged up, and it got that big old ball. And if that thing getting spit out, I don't know if that's really toxic for the people.
So I sent you an email with some information, several links, and I think the short story is that it's probably soot that's backing up, which means it's coming from diesel, and it is definitely not healthy to breathe. But if you would like to talk about it more, or if I haven't quite hit the mark on what it is you've been asking, I also left you a voicemail, and feel free to call me back and I will try to connect you with somebody else.
But I want this for a better education for the members, like that we could get an idea, what we are really getting involved with.
Yeah, I hear you. And you know what? There are some groups in CARB that do various trainings, and that's something I could look into to see if that's something that is out there already, and connect you with them.
Yeah, that'd be nice. All right, thank you.
Yep.
This is Liz. Thank you so much for the question, and Michelle for your response. And so I think, Mario, you're talking about the diesel exhaust fluid. And so it sounds like we'll have some follow-up from Michelle, and she'll talk to her team and see if there are any educational materials that they can share about that. And if not, we'll follow up. Thank you. So we can go next to Gabriela and Jose. Can folks hear? Okay, we can't hear you. I'm not sure if you can try muting or unmuting and remuting, turning it off and on. Are others able to hear? No.
Is it mine?
Okay.
Is
Oh.
it my phone? My computer? Is it on? Speaker?
Oh no, you're good, Mario.
Okay.
We're trying to hear Gabriela and Jose, but I see you're coming off mute, but we still can't hear you. I'm wondering if you could try putting your question in the chat, or try logging out of the meeting and then coming back in, and we'll come back to your question. Apologies for the technical difficulties. Yeah, so maybe we'll give them a minute. Are there any other questions as we troubleshoot coming up for Stephanie related to the SERP tracker? Okay. I'm not seeing any, and I do see that Gabriela and Jose left the meeting, so I think they're going to log back in. Thank you, everyone, for your patience and making sure that everyone who joins can engage in the meeting. So we'll give them another moment, and depending on if they do join again, we will take their question. If it's taking a little long, we'll go to the next update and be sure to come back to them. Okay, so I'm looking at my screen. I don't think I see them, but if others do, please let me know. Okay, so I think we will wait for them to come back, and we'll be sure to come back to their question. But just for the sake of time, I think we can move to the next update. Oh, I think they actually just joined. Yes. Okay. So Gabriela and Jose, I see you have joined again. If you still have a question that you want to ask, feel free to unmute. I see you're on camera. And Maria, Maria Estela, I see your hand up. I think they just unmuted.
Sí, buenas tardes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Buenas tardes a todos, soy Estela García. Nada más tengo una duda, una pregunta. El programa que había para los trailers, los camiones eléctricos, quería saber si alguien ha aplicado o no ha aplicado esos fondos. ¿Van a seguir esperando a que los traileros apliquen o se van a poner en otro proyecto?
This is Stephanie. That's a great question, Maria. And I think you're talking about our heavy duty truck replacement program, correct? Perfect.
Sí.
Thank you. That's a great question. We right now have not received any applications for the heavy duty truck program. But we certainly are still doing outreach and trying to find people to apply to the program. It is a challenging one. I know that we've talked about it before, some of the challenges of kind of the technology. It's a lot of things. It's kind of the transition to, the technology. It's also kind of infrastructure, making sure there's the right charging equipment. So we do see those kinds of challenges, but we are still going to a lot of different truck events where we kind of are able to face and talk to people that drive, have trucks that potentially can participate in the program. We do continue to do that outreach, but I think to your point, Maria, that is still a measure that we're closely observing and keeping an eye on. And as we kind of get to a time that I think we want to make sure that we're not waiting too long to kind of think about, if the measure can support other programs that are being more successful, then we are still monitoring that, and we'll kind of bring that update to you all and that discussion of, okay, is this we want to make sure we still have opportunity and time for people to participate in the program, because it is important. It does reduce a lot of emissions. Again, here I am talking about it again. It's important because we want to get those emissions reduced in the community. But of course, we are aware that we want to make sure that we still have enough time to, if we need to move to a different program and support other programs. So we're still closely monitoring that, and we'll bring that update to you all if it's needed that we do need to reallocate those funds.
Gracias.
Great question. Thank you. This is Liz again, and I do see that our CSC members, Gabriela and Jose, have joined again. So I just want to invite you both to see if you still have that question or comment. We would love to hear it. And if you're still having technical issues, we can have the Air District follow up with you after the meeting. But do feel free to unmute and share your comment. This is Liz. I'm so sorry. I don't think the audio is working. We still don't hear you. So I think if you are able to write your question or comment in the chat, that would be helpful. If not, we'll write down this action item, and we'll have someone from the Air District follow up with you, and we'll make sure that your question gets answered. Sorry about that, and thank you so much. And I think I'm not seeing any other questions or comments in the chat for the Air District's update. So we can transition to the next update. And I believe that is from CARB. Michelle, I am not sure if you have any updates to share tonight, but would love to invite you to unmute and share with the group.
Yeah, I just have one thing that I just got done putting into the chat, and that is that CARB now has a new environmental justice blog. I don't know if anybody subscribed to that before, but this is a place where we, especially OCAP people, because it often tends to be me that turns in things to post on this blog. But the idea is that this blog really focuses in on communities that have been overburdened, and we try to post things that are either opportunities to be involved, sometimes with CARB, sometimes not necessarily with CARB. It might post things like grant availability, or I'm trying to think of some of the other things. I don't know, some random articles sometimes that we come across that we think that EJ communities would be not involved with, but be interested in hearing about. So, and if you all have anything like that you think that other communities in particular would be interested in hearing, you are welcome to send it over to me, and I will try to get them to post that for you also. So I put that link in the chat. And then I just wanted to also say, I also put in the chat, I found some training course video archives for CARB. And these are, and this might be helpful for other people because I know there's others of you that on the line that have people in your family that do trucking or maintenance. So hopefully you'll find some of that helpful. And there was a specific video on maintaining diesel particulate filters. I don't know if it will get to all the details that you're looking for, Mario, but if not, I think I can probably track somebody down for you to ask really specific questions. So I don't really have anything else to update with, but please let me know if you need anything or if I can help in any way. I look forward to seeing you all in December too.
Thank you, Michelle. This is Liz. Any questions or comments for Michelle on those two updates on the environmental justice blog and then that really cool resource with some information about the question Mario had on diesel trucks? Okay. Not seeing any questions. Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks.
Okay, so we can go to our next agency update, and that is from DPR. I see a couple folks in our meeting tonight and would like to invite you to share any updates at
Yes.
this time.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Ivan, Senior Scientist at DPR. I'm gonna give my updates in Spanish. I have actually a bunch, but there you go. Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Iván, el científico del Departamento de Reglamentación de Pesticidas, y tengo un par de actualizaciones para todos ustedes. Vamos a empezar primero por el sistema de notificaciones. El DPR está trabajando actualmente en la finalización de la reglamentación. Estoy hablando un poquito despacio porque me acordé que los intérpretes les gusta que hable bien. Bueno, tenemos también planeado comenzar la implementación del sistema de notificación en todo el estado el primer trimestre del próximo año, que viene a ser entre enero y marzo. Más adelante les daremos una fecha exacta una vez que se finalice la reglamentación y todo se haga oficial. El DPR también llevará a cabo demostraciones de cómo funciona el sistema de notificación. Así que por ese lado no se preocupen, vamos a hacer una demostración de cómo registrarse y pues cómo saber manejar, entender el sistema. Ok, mi siguiente actualización que tengo es sobre la reglamentación del telone, del 1,3-dicloropropeno o el 1,3-D, perdón, 1,3-D-dicloropropeno, conocido como telone. Las reglamentaciones propuestas para reducir las exposiciones potenciales a los transeúntes ocupacionales, en otras palabras, a los trabajadores agrícolas, se darán a conocer este noviembre, el próximo mes. Este reglamento ha sido desarrollado conjuntamente con OIJA, con el Departamento del Estado de Salud, OIJA. La publicación de la reglamentación vendrá acompañada con un periodo de comentarios públicos de 60 días. El DPR organizará 4 audiencias sobre la reglamentación. La audiencia más pronta será en la ciudad de Visalia el miércoles 8 de enero de 6 a 8 p.m. Y como siempre, habrá interpretación en inglés y en español. También habrá una audiencia virtual el 10 de enero a las 10 de la mañana. Las otras 2 audiencias serán en Salinas el 16 de enero y en Chico el 21 de enero. Y pronto les compartiremos más detalles sobre esas reuniones. Tenemos las fechas, pero todavía nos falta saber el horario. Por último, quería actualizarles sobre la red del monitoreo del aire, conocidas como AMN por sus siglas en inglés. La primera versión del reporte del monitoreo del aire de 2023 acaba de publicarse y esta incluye resultados de Shafter. El que les habla, yo, Iván Delgado, soy el que escribió el reporte, así que cualquier pregunta que tengan, por favor, no duden en contactarme. En un minuto les compartiré no solo mi correo, pero también mi número telefónico para los que prefieren llamarme. El DPR está aceptando comentarios sobre este informe, el AMN 2023. Aceptamos los comentarios hasta el 12 de noviembre del 2024, del presente año. Y en el chat proporcionaremos los enlaces para que puedan hacer sus comentarios. Los comentarios sobre el reporte pueden hacerse por correo electrónico a aniela.burant@cdpr.k.gov. Ahorita en el chat también les comparto el correo pronto, pero les recomendamos que hagan los comentarios directamente por el enlace Smart Comment. Entonces, si me dejo explicar, el reporte, ustedes lo pueden acceder por un enlace del internet. Así pueden hacer sus comentarios directamente en el internet y no están mandando correo a nadie. Ok. Hemos programado una reunión virtual para las comunidades donde se encuentran nuestras estaciones del monitoreo del aire el 12 de diciembre de 6 a 7:30 p.m. Estas comunidades son 4, que son las de Oxnard, Santa María, Shafter y Ohlone y Watsonville. La reunión de las que le acabo de mencionar del 12 de diciembre de 6 a 7:30 p.m. se llevará a cabo en internet a través de Zoom y también habrá interpretación en inglés y en español. El objetivo de esta reunión es proporcionar más información sobre los resultados del monitoreo del aire en las 4 comunidades que ya les mencioné. Del mismo modo, esta información será enviada a su distrito y el distrito les informará, les dará más información cómo asistir al evento. Y eso será, me imagino, en los próximos días. También toda esta información la estaremos compartiendo por el chat. Bueno, ha sido
Yvonne,
bastante. Cualquier pregunta
I'm
que
so
tengan.
sorry.
Sí,
Oh,
Liz. Right on
can you hear
time?
me? Oh,
Yes.
this is Liz. I'm so sorry to interrupt. I think I'm seeing a couple people are not able to hear you, not able to hear you speaking Spanish. And so we just want to pause, and it could be that folks switched channels. So if you could take a look at your interpretation, Minerva and Gabriela, and select Spanish.
It's in the English channel, speaking Spanish.
Yvonne, are you in the English channel?
Estoy en el original.
Yvonne, you may have to switch to your Spanish channel. So try selecting Spanish.
How about now? Wait, I just finished my app.
En
Do you want me to
español.
start over?
Let's see if folks can hear in Spanish.
¿Me escuchan ahora sí en español o nada?
That now works
¿Me
for the
escuchan en
English
español o
channel, just so
nada?
you know. Now we're getting interpretation. We didn't before.
¿Ahora sí me escuchan en español? ¿Sí? ¿Y hace un rato no me escuchaban nada?
Yo sí escuché todo en español.
¿Hace un rato me escuchaban, sí o no?
Sí, se
Yo
escuchaba
también lo
bien.
escuché,
Sí.
pero me tuve que salir de
Ok.
español y meterme al canal en inglés para poderte escuchar.
Okay, I'm confused. I'm not
Yo
sure
sí
if people
escuché
were able
todo.
to hear me or not. Can somebody confirm? If you were able to listen to me in Spanish, can you just speak up and say
Sí,
yes?
yes.
Like
Sí,
the
nosotros sí lo
entire
Yes.
escuchamos en
presentation that
español.
I made, the
Sí,
whole
sí, lo
updates
escuchamos
were like
perfecto.
forever. I said it in Spanish. Were you able to hear that?
Sí,
Okay, I'm seeing
sí,
Yo
comments
sí,
like yes, yes,
Sí.
yes.
yo sí escuché todo en
I
la
did not have
interpretación.
issues. Okay, maybe it was a local audio issue because seems like a
Yeah.
lot of people were able to uh understand and listen to my Spanish updates.
Yes. Or
Ah,
are you just talking, Steph?
So right now I'm in the interpretation channel. I am the original audio. You want me to go to any specific channel for questions or not?
I think, Yvonne, stay in the channel that you're in.
I
I
cannot
think,
hear you, Liz. Now something is wrong with my. Oops. I see
can
now.
you
Hold
hear
on.
me now?
Yes. Okay, now I can hear you.
Okay. So I think stay in your channel, Yvonne,
Okay,
and I think the issues have been resolved.
cool.
This
Okay.
This is Stephanie. It sounds like most people heard the update, but I do think, Yvonne, those were really, really great updates that I think probably everyone on the committee is super interested in. So I wonder if what we can do is have DPR share those updates via email, and then we will share it out to the whole committee again, including all the standing updates you heard. We'll just share it again. That way, if you miss something, you'll have the contact information, you'll have the whole kind of message in front of you, and we'll send that out really shortly after this meeting.
Sure, I'll do that. To whom again?
You can send it to myself or Eric, any one
Okay.
of us. And I know Aniela regularly kind of sends stuff over. So
All right.
yep.
I have an email already prepared to send over some information, so I can send it, Yvonne.
Cool. Noted. Thank you, everybody. Oh, questions? Preguntas? No,
Any
it was perfect.
questions?
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. This is Liz. And I'll pause. I know there were a lot of technical issues. It sounds like you're going to get an email after this meeting with everything that Yvonne just shared. But if you do have a question right now, please raise your hand and we can take some time to answer before we transition. Okay, so no questions coming up for DPR. And thank you so much, Yvonne, for all those updates. So at this time, I will open it up to the community to see if anyone has relevant updates to share about the Arvin Lamont community for the group. Any upcoming events that the community should know about?
This is Stephanie. I wonder if either Muddy or Eric or Danny, if someone's really quick, I know Eric talked about it earlier, but if we could quickly share the details of the Lamont Harvest Festival that we're going to. Are we able to pull that information?
Yeah, so I actually went last year. So speaking a little bit of last year, there was a lot of booths out there. I know I ran into Bianca out there again last year. We will be, I'll tell you the exact location. We did send an email out to folks just again as a reminder. Um, it's going to be across the street from the David Head Center. So, where we have our CSC meetings every year, we just want to remind folks that it's going to be at the Alicante School soccer field. Again, right across the street. We're going to be handing out some great air quality and grant information to folks. So please feel free to share it with just the general community. From my understanding, this is an event for everybody to attend, especially for the kiddos. So we're definitely excited for that. And it's going to start at 4:30 p.m. But if there's information that you'd like to see from the district that we could go ahead and bring, feel free to reach out and let us know. And again, that's going to be next Wednesday, so a week from today.
Thanks, Eric. We hope to see some of you there at the event.
Thank you, Eric. And that sounds really fun. I hope folks are able to join the Lamont Harvest Festival. Thank you for sharing. So are there any other updates that folks would like to share before we start wrapping up our meeting?
Liz, this is Stephanie. I also see that Gabriella and Jose, I think they put a question in the chat that I can really quickly answer. I do believe that their question is related to the passenger vehicle replace program and asking about the 90 applications that I believe it's 89 applications that we have in-house and how long that process takes. So the SERP tracker does note 89 applications. So that's 89 applications we've received, and that could be in kind of any various stage. So it could be that they are, our team is kind of reviewing it. It could be that it's complete. It could be that Valley Can is kind of working with them to kind of make sure everything is, in line and that, that they've filled out everything they need to. So they could be in various stages of the process. But typically the application process takes anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. And then in addition to that, it also kind of depends on the person who's shopping around. We typically give folks about 45 days once it's been approved for them to shop around. But sometimes people, want a specific car, have a specific idea of what they want. So it might take them a little bit longer. And in those cases, we do try and assist folks with extending that timeline. But that's typically kind of the time frame that we're looking at for this program. I hope that answers your question, Gabriela and Jose, but please let me know if you have anything additional.
This is Liz. Thank you for answering that question, Stephanie. And I see Gabriela just unmuted, but we still can't hear you, unfortunately. Thank you for adding your question in the chat. And if you do have any follow-up, again, put it in the chat or the Air District will definitely follow up with you after the meeting. Thank you. And so I'm not seeing other questions coming up. No hands raised, so I think we can transition to closing out our meeting. So at this time, I will share some updates on my screen with our next meeting dates. Okay. Give me one moment. Okay. So hopefully you can see the slide with the next meeting dates. So as you've heard, there is a vegetative barriers subcommittee meeting happening on Tuesday of next week, October 29th, from 4 to 5 p.m. via Zoom. Then we'll have our agenda setting meeting, and that'll be in another week or so, so not our usual week following the CSC. So that'll be on November 7th at our usual 4 to 5 p.m. And as you heard, we are also hoping to do an in-person meeting on December 5th. And if you are seeing any issues with that date, please let us know as soon as possible. But that does seem to be the date that works for most folks. And we would love to hear your thoughts on what you would like to see on the agenda. And so please do come to our agenda setting meeting on November 7th to give your feedback. And of course, if you can't make it, there will be more opportunities for you to share your thoughts. But just wanted to let you all know that we will be planning that in-person meeting really exciting. So I'll stop sharing that slide for a moment and I will pull up our action items. Okay. Okay. So I think hopefully you see the action items on your screen. I'm going to read through these, and as always, feel free to interrupt me, pause me if you see anything was written down incorrectly, if you have any questions or clarification, and also if you have anything that you would like us to add to this tracker. So the first action item, the Air District will provide an updated overall SERP status graphic for the annual AB 617 Arvin Lamont report at the December CSC meeting. Next, the Air District will bring paving project updates also at the December CSC meeting. Next, the CSC is invited to share feedback on the annual report draft to the Air District by November 18th. Next, the Air District will add comparisons of emissions reductions and strategies in the annual report draft. Next, CARB staff will connect with Mario regarding the diesel emission education for the community. And I do recall that Michelle dropped some links in the chat, but do let us know, Mario, and anyone, if you have follow-up questions on what was shared. Next, the Air District will follow up with Gabriela and Jose, but we did get their question answered. And just as a reminder, if you had any follow-up questions, do feel free to reach out to the Air District to get those answered. And last, DPR will email the Air District their standing update that was shared tonight, and the Air District will forward their update to the CSE. And that was our last action item. So I'll pause now and see if there are any modifications, changes that you would like to make to any of these items, or again, anything that you would like us to add. Okay. I'm not seeing anything. And it looks like Yvonne just put his phone number in the chat, and really appreciate you making yourself available to the community. Okay, so at this time, we'll keep wrapping up our meeting. I am happy to invite our two co-leads to share some closing remarks with us for the night. Bianca, we can start with you tonight. Is there anything that you would like to share with the CSC as we wrap up our meeting? And I am not seeing Bianca, so she may have dropped off the meeting, and that's okay. At this time, I am happy to invite Cesar, our other co-lead, to share some closing remarks with the group.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for reviewing the report. I definitely like to invite any community members to reach out to either us or the district for more like clarification or information on the report. And appreciate Gustavo Jr.'s comments about, making some sort of comparison or figuring out exactly where the reductions of PM 2.5 and the other pollutants came from, and what's in those pollutants, just because I know community members are super interested in figuring out what's around them and how much they've been helping to reduce it. So thank you so much for helping put that together. And thank you to everyone that was able to come here tonight and spend another Wednesday with us here and in the Zoom to try to make the air in Arvin, Lamont just a little bit better.
Thank you so much, Cesar, for those really nice closing remarks. And yeah, want to echo the appreciation for everyone who joins these meetings every Wednesday. Well, one Wednesday a month. And it was really exciting to see what was presented in tonight's annual report update. It really does show all of the incredible work that has gone into reducing emissions in the community. And so as we continue to close out, I'll invite Stephanie to share any last thoughts.
Thank you, Liz, and thank you all so much for being here and for sharing your questions. I appreciated the time in tonight's meeting to not just talk about the annual report and talk about and really highlight all of the great work that you all have been doing this past year, but also the opportunity to kind of talk more in depth about some of our other CERT measures. We are, of course, like Liz mentioned, going to have the agenda setting, and I know we chatted about some potential topics in this meeting as well, but I just wanted to say that we are so excited to close out the end of the year with an in-person meeting with you all at the beginning of December. Like Liz let us know, please let us know as soon as possible if you see any issues. We did talk to the co-leads and it seemed like a good date for a lot of folks. But let us know if anything big in the community that's happening or something arises. But yeah, we're still looking forward and to seeing you all in what's probably going to be Lamont. We're thinking the David Head Center, but we are excited to see you all in person and to wrap up the year and to celebrate all the progress kind of that's been done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Okay, everybody. Well, I am happy to wish you all a good night. At this time, we can close out and just open it up for our final public comment. So if any public members have anything they would like to share, feel free to do so now. And if not, again, just want to wish you all a really good night and thank you again for taking the time to be here.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches. Buenas
Buenas
noches.
noches.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Buenas
Buenas
noches.
noches,
Buenas
gracias.
noches a todos.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Good night.
Ángel Olivares, Lucía Alcalde.
Vamos.